Hola,
Hi,
everybody.
Fran. Hi, Daniel. How it's going?
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Likewise.
Little fuzzy there. I don't know why I'm
Give me a second, please.
also, I don't know why I'm so much fuzzy. Allez, camera, do something less
Yeah,
fuzzy.
you're very fuzzy.
Yeah, it just focused on my hand. It didn't focus
Weird.
right. Oh.
Oops.
Maybe I'm stopping it and starting it again. No. Why is it so much fuzzy?
Maybe you can stop the camera and then on again.
Remove the autofocus, maybe. With Logi.
It's just there is no autofocus. It should work directly like that.
Okay, strange.
Just it should detect my head and do the stuff, but it won't work. Okay.
But it's okay. No problem for that. We are live.
Okay.
So we will going to wait some minutes until the other subscribers be with us. Maybe. Okay. So how it's going? How it's Belgium from?
It's kind of good weather currently. So we are lucky. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Danny, it's in Colombia and
it's always good weather.
Always good weather in Colombia.
Yeah, we had 2 days of rain in the last 6 months. It was nice.
Okay. Okay. Close. Okay.
All right, so we are live actually right now. So hopefully you can fix the problems of the camera very quickly.
Oh, I'm actually in focus now.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent. Yeah. So actually, we will wait be between 4 and 5 minutes to start. How are you, Daniel? How is Colombia right now? Maybe I will going to talk in Spanish to try to make a translate, and yeah, it's only for some minutes, okay? ¿Cómo van las cosas, Dani? Sé que el tema está todavía un poquito complicado por Colombia, pero sabes pues que desde Perú estamos tratando de darles mente positiva para que todo esto se mejore en la brevedad posible.
Desafortunadamente el continente está pasando por unas etapas complicadas a nivel político y económico, y ojalá se puedan encontrar soluciones a corto plazo. Y estamos todos en unos países que han sufrido particularmente la crisis del COVID, combinada con crisis financiera, combinada con crisis políticas en algunos casos, pero no hay otra que ir adelante y esperar una reactivación económica rápida, porque son millones de personas que están realmente en situación bastante desesperadas esperando esa reactivación.
Sí, la verdad que el tema es complicado, ha sido bastante difícil para toda Latinoamérica y para todo el mundo. Sin embargo, lo que está pasando por este lado, la verdad, es un poco más pesado para nosotros, con países con tan bajos recursos, ¿no? Esperar que todo esto mejore y que las vacunas hagan efecto en la brevedad. A ver si reactivamos la economía, aunque ya ha habido una pequeña reactivación, pero la verdad es que estamos muy golpeados. Bueno, pero hablemos de cosas un poquito más interesantes, un poquito más divertidas. Sabemos también de que todo esto ha impactado en grandes industrias y lo hemos venido conversando en el transcurso de los meses. Tenemos unas compañías como empresas de retail que la pandemia les cambió completamente la estructura del negocio, cambió completamente la forma en la que nos comportábamos y bueno, y ahí es donde todo este tema de analítica avanzada si bien ya estaba en vida, comenzó a impactar mucho más, ¿no? Ahí es donde ya los problemas y la rapidez con la que teníamos que resolver los problemas se veían realmente en vivo. Así como el tema, no solo en temas de salud, sino también en banco, que es lo que usualmente puede verse reflejado el comportamiento. ¿Cómo has visto tú el mercado, Daniel? Y si le puedes traducir también esta conversación a Frank para que nos cuente qué está viendo él del lado de Europa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dora's question is really how have you seen the changes in the market following all the COVID crisis and the way companies had to reinvent themselves? She was mentioning that retail companies, for example, have actually faced the crisis with profit because they have reinvented themselves. They've entered a completely new dynamic of working completely with analytics when everything is now online. Banks also have to reinvent themselves, but for different reasons, because the predictive models they had a year ago basically stopped working. The way you could identify a person who would not pay his credit card is different now. I mean, the transactions of before March 2020 are completely irrelevant when a vast amount of the population has lost their income or even ability to generate. All of the independents who before relied on credit cards for small kind of safety net now are using it really to pay other type of expenses. On our side, I think we really have seen dramatic changes. I'm going to switch to Spanish again. Los cambios que he visto son un poco como los que Dora ha mencionado, pero para nosotros también hemos visto un gran impacto porque el hecho de estar encerrado también nos ha podido permitir enfocarnos más en código. Y hay muchas novedades que se integraron en la herramienta y eso es bueno. La relación que tuvimos con varios clientes también ha cambiado porque nos hemos metido más mano en la mano para ver cómo podemos enfrentar a esa situación con ellos, de esos cambios tan rápidos en sus estructuras informacional con sus clientes y ver cómo podemos apoyarlos a reaccionar y mejorar los modelos que tienen en un lapso de tiempo más corto. I don't know, Frank, what are the key trends that you're seeing in Europe in terms of analytics following the COVID-19 crisis?
In Europe, what I am seeing is that more and more people want to stay at home, work at home. Many people want to work at home. It's kind of an opportunity to reinvent analytics, because when you do work at home and you have a completely different setting. You need tools with different attributes that are able to run in remote or run locally. So it's just a lot of different way of working. But as you said, Daniel, it's just that nowadays analytics is a lot more present than before. The companies are engaging a lot more in analytical activities because they can't face the client, so they have to face it in a different way, using numbers. And So it's kind of for the people that are interested in analytics, it's kind of a good time actually. But I know that on the other side, it's also a big economical crisis, especially in the Latin America continent, and because it's a continent that was touched more heavily than the others. The thing is, as a CEO of TIMi, I can I see that as a good time to promote TIMi in Latin America, because data scientists in Latin America, they might be even more aware than all the other data scientists all around the world that analytics must have an economical impact. And since when you do, and obviously when you're doing analytics with TIMi, you can do that in a fraction of the cost generated by any other solution, and in particular the cloud. So you get faster and superior results with TIMi. And in this context of the COVID, where you need to do a lot of analytics for a small price, it's just a good way of thinking about TIMi. Okay.
Daniel, it's in mute. Are you in mute?
Yes, I was in mute, sorry. Sí, Frank comentó que la situación en Europa es bastante similar a la que vivimos acá. Es que todo el mundo se quedó en casa, lleva un año sin mover de casa, y la tendencia al trabajo remoto, al trabajo desde casa, está aquí para quedarse. Muchas empresas se están reactivando, pero la gente sigue pidiendo que se quede en casa porque ven el valor realmente del tiempo ganado. Eso al cambio está generando muchos datos, mucha información adicionales que se está capturando, y para nosotros también vemos que esa crisis fue una oportunidad, porque hay una mayor conciencia de los costos asociados con el análisis de esos datos, y una solución como TIMi, que es a largo plazo mucho más económica que las alternativas, resulta ser el momento perfecto para la adopción, porque los científicos de datos tienen hoy en día que reaccionar aún más rápido que antes, y tener esa capacidad de procesar gran volumen de información y tener respuesta rápida se está haciendo sentir aún más que en el mundo pre-COVID, el cual teníamos que hacer el lujo de trabajar con meses o años de transacciones, cuando hoy en día nos toca reaccionar casi en vivo.
Sí, definitivamente es un cambio bastante interesante, y es un cambio que vino para quedarse, y muy interesante también que estemos viendo que lo que vivimos en Latinoamérica, también para compartirlo al resto, lo vivimos al lado del mundo. Es básicamente, si bien a nivel de presupuestos y a nivel de economía obviamente hay muchas diferencias, esta cultura como tal del home office y todos los retos que esto conlleva desde nuestra industria, pues vino para quedarse, y tenemos que comenzar a trabajar en cómo apoyar a las compañías y a nuestros diferentes usuarios para que esto fluya, y fluya de una forma adecuada, ¿no? Yo creo que ya siendo las 10:11 podemos dar inicio a nuestro webinar. Realmente súper contenta de tenerlos por aquí nuevamente. Para las personas que están con nosotros constantemente, por ahí veo nombres conocidos. Recuerden que esto lo hacemos todos los meses, y este mes es muy especial para nosotros porque es el mes en el que cumplimos un año más como compañía, como sucursal de TIMi en Latinoamérica, y queríamos celebrarlo de esta forma, compartiéndoles realmente un webinar sin ataduras, un webinar con el creador de TIMi, una de las soluciones más importantes que hay hoy del mercado, y lo digo con mucho orgullo. Y por esto, porque realmente TIMi es esto, la cultura de TIMi es esto, es poder acercar y poder bajar las cosas a cualquier usuario y a cualquier persona, es poder estar cerca de ustedes desde una perspectiva bastante práctica. Tenemos hoy a un invitado especial, Daniel y yo, que es Vanden Berghen, que como muchos saben es el creador de esta magia, el creador de esta maravilla, y nuestro sido, que además de ser el líder de la compañía, es un gran amigo para nosotros. Frank, bienvenido. Voy a traducir esto en inglés nuevamente. Estamos muy contentos de que estés con nosotros hoy. Tenemos 35 minutos para que nos puedas compartir cómo comenzaste a crear toda esta magia, cómo comenzó todo este proceso para ti y qué se viene, ¿no? Todos los desafíos que tenemos hoy. Ya es una industria que crece a una velocidad absurda. Todos los días vienen cosas nuevas, algoritmos nuevos, formas nuevas. ¿Cómo ves tú el futuro de todo esto? Y que yo creo que para todos los que estamos en este sector nos apasiona. I will going to translate that. Frank, we are so happy to be with us today. We really appreciate your time. You are actually, Frank, it's our CEO and the creator of this amazing software, this amazing tool. We have 35 minutes to start, okay? And then of 35 minutes, where you will going to talk about how do you create that, where do you start, and all about that. Then we will going to start a little time for questions. So we are right now in live. We are in Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and LinkedIn Live, and also our stream yard that is in Soho Backstage. So we are in 4 platforms right now. So I will going to give you the questions in the intro. And yes, we will going to start. Daniel, I don't know if you want to say something before.
Daniel, we can't hear you.
No, very quickly, we are just thrilled to have you here. This company definitely would not exist without you. You are the brain and soul of the company, of the values that you have embedded in this company from Belgium and here in Latin America really are what define us as a company. And this is an adventure that Dora and I have started with you, and having you now 6 years after we created the company, giving us your feedback and telling us the story of how this began is really very cool for us, and I think very cool for all our clients who are connected here, because it's very interesting to see what's in the brain of somebody that decides to challenge the status quo and invent something when it seemed that everything was already there, but you just had the idea that, okay, something might be there, but I don't think it's the right thing to do. So let's reinvent it. Entonces, hoy es realmente un gran placer para nosotros tener a Frank y nos va a contar un poco lo que le pasó por la cabeza y por qué se metió a inventar cosas en una realidad en cual todo el mundo pensaba que ya tenemos las herramientas. Y creo que esa historia de cómo nació TIMi es de gran interés para todos, para entender cuál es la lógica y por qué seguimos innovando en el mundo analítico, pero a veces a contracorriente.
Oh, what an introduction. I like that. Thanks a lot, guys. I'm really pleased to be here. So thanks a lot. So maybe I prepare a few slides. I don't know if you can see the slides there. Okay, cool. So how it began. So it began a long time ago. Actually, my first predictive models was even in the 90s. So it's now, I'm old, more than 20 years ago. And so at that time, my objective was, as always, as it is now, to build the most advanced data science and the most advanced tools in the world. Okay, cool. So the most advanced tools in the world. And because I really liked as a kid all these fantasy films and movies that you saw with the little R2-D2 and Bender and Johnny 5. So it's just all part of my childhood, and I like that very much. Okay, so I grew up and went to university. As always, when you are in university, you discover a field, and it's a case with all data scientists. We all start with a tree and we build a forest of tree. We try neural network and so on. And so it's life at the university. I was discovering stuff, and after a while, I got an employee and I got a job at different banks actually, and it was just a lot of suffering. Horribly slow computing time, just crashing all the time. I remember that when I was running a job in SAS, I started the job on Monday. I went back for the result on Friday, and I just noticed that I did set a parameter to the wrong value, and then it meant that I needed to redo all the computation from start, losing 1 week again. So I said to myself, that's not possible. There should be a different way and a better way to do analytics. And at that time, the only alternative to SAS were R and Python, and they were not at all mature. So and they had all the same flows as SAS. So I had no other choice than to drop everything out and rebuild everything in a proper way. Like it's a very geek way of thinking. I think it's just how to avoid working more, how to avoid working more by removing all these glitches. What you do to avoid working more, you spend 10 years working on a different solution, and the solution was TIMi, obviously. So at that time, it was very painful actually to build predictive model. I remember it was really an archaic procedure from 1 to 3 months to create a model, and the and we were actually very far from this really self-learning, auto-adaptive artificial intelligence that you see in the movie. So what I really wanted to do was an AutoML actually, but at that time it was not named like that. So I had to invent something new, something better, and it was TIMi Modeler. So it was born in 2007. At that time, the word AutoML did not exist. Afterwards, there were many different competitors that tried to reproduce what we had. I give a few names there, but they are all very much inferior to what we had actually already in 2007. If you look at what this solution can do on a huge infrastructure with hundreds of nodes, it's even with hundreds of nodes, it is 1,000 times slower than TIMi. So it's just good solution, TIMi. And the next question that I have very often about TIMi is about is TIMi still meaningful and relevant in a world where it's not machine learning that count, it's AI that count. Because the terminology and the vocabulary evolved a little bit. AI, machine learning, and previously it was statistics. And for me, basically, there is not so much difference. All these algorithms are part of a very global family of algorithms that allows to create models. Or at the time of statistics, it was not called models; it was called inference, predictive inference, something like that. So basically, all these algorithms for me are the same, but obviously some are better for some specific jobs. Like if you have to classify or analyze images, you will most certainly use deep learning. And if you need to analyze a CRM dataset for cross-sell or churn or this kind of CRM activities, you will most certainly use TIMi because it has some superior advantages compared to other solutions. Like it's very good when there is a high bias error. And this high bias error happens all the time when you are doing CRM, and also it's a very good set of algorithms when the target is drifting over time, when you have a non-stationary target. which other kind of more non-linear technique like XGBoost or deep learning cannot really handle this problem of non-stationarity target. Actually, you might be interested to know that in 2001, I was working on a project to analyze images, and at that time, deep learning was not a thing. So I created a complete data analysis package to classify images using trees. So this would be a complete heresy nowadays, using trees to manipulate images. But the nice thing with machine learning and AI is that there is no wrong answer. You could use trees to classify images. Obviously, you will get not results that are not as good as deep learning, but it's still feasible, and actually it gave pretty good results at that time. So it's just a project that was deployed all over the world to analyze defects in flat glass. Well, anyway, that's outside the scope of this little discussion.
Before we continue, voy a traducir y resumir un poco lo que nos acabas de decir para la audiencia en español. Básicamente la inspiración de Frank siempre ha sido la parte de ciencia ficción y la idea, la fascinación que tenía por las inteligencias artificiales en las películas, en los muñecos, en todo lo que era ciencia ficción. Creo que Frank siempre ha sido un nerd y un geek, y que es una de las razones por cual terminamos siendo buenos amigos, porque soy básicamente igual. Y frente a la realidad de que lo que estaba haciendo en el trabajo era tan alejado de esta realidad, de que estábamos pasando meses haciendo un trabajo manual para sacar un modelo, y estamos hablando ahí 2005, 2006, decidió que había que inventar algo nuevo, que la mayoría de las acciones, de las transformaciones que estaba haciendo para hacer un modelo, era siempre lo mismo, y que podía inventar algo que iba a automatizar este proceso y hacerlo de una forma correcta. Y que muchas veces estábamos trabajando con tecnología que nos permitían procesar la data a una buena velocidad, y entonces decidió hacerlo en lenguaje bajo nivel, siendo un programador. Decidió, mira, ya voy a volver a hacer algo completamente nuevo. Después el AutoML que inventó en 2007, porque realmente de eso se trataba, de hacer un sistema que en cuestión de minutos saque el mejor modelo posible a partir de la data disponible, ha inspirado a muchos otros. De hecho, en 2012 nació Data Robot ofreciendo eso. 2018, 2019, todas las soluciones open source ya tienen algún sistema de AutoML que está acercando a esos resultados, pero típicamente haciéndolo en mucho más tiempo, por decisiones tecnológicas que se tomaron y están por detrás de esas herramientas. Es decir, que cuando uno está trabajando, por ejemplo, con Python, pues no importa la cantidad de máquinas que ponga, Python sigue siendo Python, y Python va a ser mucho más lento que algo desarrollado en C. En la siguiente, básicamente vemos... next slide, please. Y hizo una intervención muy interesante sobre la relevancia de una metodología como la de TIMi, en cual trabajamos realmente con modelos de clasificación muy optimizados, pero en un mundo en el cual la inteligencia artificial está dominando todo el hype en el sector. ¿Cuál es la relevancia de esos modelos? ¿Y por qué no simplemente pasar a Deep Learning para todo? Y hablo de algo que muy pocos están mencionando, que es realmente el tema del High Bias Error. ¿Eso qué significa? Es que cuando uno trabaja con imágenes, realmente no hay error en la data. Una persona es una persona, un carro es un carro. Un carro un día no se va a ver como una bicicleta, es un carro, y la bicicleta siempre es una bicicleta, un peatón siempre es un peatón. Pero cuando estamos trabajando en data transaccional, por ejemplo, un tema de propensión de compra para un servicio financiero, siempre va a haber un error. Porque de 20 personas que se ven igual en los patrones, podemos tener muchos perfiles de comportamiento distintos, y jamás vamos a tener una situación donde los 20 van a comprar el mismo producto. De los 20 podemos tener 15 que lo compran si tenemos mucha suerte, y la probabilidad a priori era el 5, vamos 2 veces mejor que el a priori, pero sí vamos siempre a terminar teniendo unos errores de clasificación que son inherentes a la naturaleza de los problemas que estamos trabajando. Y esos tipos de problemas no van a desaparecer. Y es importante que uno se dé cuenta de cuál es el mejor algoritmo para cuál situación. Ahora, en Machine Learning, uno puede intentar de aplicar todo para todo. Uno puede intentar de hacer clasificación de imagen usando hasta técnicas de árboles. Va a dar resultados muy inferiores a lo que daría Deep Learning, pero va a dar resultados. Pueden también intentar de usar Deep Learning para modelos de clasificación a nivel comercial y analizando CRM, pero va a tener resultados mucho más inestables de lo que tendría porque no son hechos para ese tipo de target que son con High Bias Error y Time Drift, que el target cambia con el tiempo. Un patrón puede ser distinto. Si uno piensa la razón por cual uno cambia de proveedor de teléfono hace 2 años, no tiene nada que ver con las razones que tiene hoy. Son patrones distintos, el mundo cambia, las ofertas cambian, el mercado cambia. Y entonces necesitamos algoritmos que estén adaptados a esas realidades.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. Muchas gracias, Daniel. Excellent, Frank. So, did you start that with a big suffering, and also in that time you was talking about deep learning and the difference and the exactly difference between the deep learning and machine learning. So, great. Yes. How did you continue that way?
Okay, so the thing is, at that time I had this really nice AutoML machine that could be used for everything that is typically the typical usage is cross-selling, upselling, churn for banks, for retailers, telecom and insurances. And I had this really nice solution that would allow me to iterate very quickly, because you see at that time when we were using IBM, SAS, R or Python, and it's actually basically still the same today. When you engage in a predictive modeling project, you start with an idea, you do some data preparation, you create your model, and all in all, this whole procedure is from 1 to 3 months, and the model is only the last part is a few weeks. And when you arrive at the last step there, you notice that some data is not clean, or the variables that you created are not exactly the right variable to get the best model. What you need to do is to iterate, and this is exactly what you can do now with TIMi, because you don't have this modeling time there that is just preventing you to do that. So you can here iterate several times. This is why we did this little circle. But here is another representation where you see the data preparation, and then the modeling is really fast, and then it should be even shorter actually. And then the data preparation again to iterate a second time to get a better data set, and then a second model, etc., etc. And as you can see here in this slide, it's very much clear that we are spending a lot of time in data preparation. So we basically solved the data modeling problem for 99% of the cases, but now we had another problem, which is just data preparation. Daniel, you want to take the hand?
So, la realidad es que cuando empezamos a hacer modelos, lo que hizo TIMi Modeler fue reducir el tiempo necesario para sacar un buen modelo. Y si uno mira el ciclo tradicional de hacer un modelo, es que pasamos mucho tiempo en preparación de datos, luego pasábamos mucho tiempo afinando el modelo, buscando el mejor algoritmo, haciendo mucho trabajo manual, y lo que hace TIMi es reducir ese tiempo de modelo para siempre volver a una preparación de datos. Y de hecho la visualización de la parte del modelo acá es muy larga, porque típicamente un modelo sale en cuestión de minutos. Uno le pone 200.000 registros, 50 variables, en 30 segundos tiene un modelo que salió de TIMi AutoML. Y de este modelo surgen preguntas que nos hacen volver a procesar datos, crear variables, probar otro modelo, crear otras variables, probar modelo. Pero lo que vemos es que el tiempo finalmente no va a cambiar tanto, porque todo está en la preparación de datos. Y entonces se dio cuenta que de pronto había resuelto el problema equivocado.
Okay, thanks for the translation, Daniel. That's great. Okay, so the new problems that I needed to solve was the data preparation problem. It's actually the core of the problem, because and it's also something that is very interesting for data scientists, because this is the place. The data preparation is the place where you can really unleash your creativity. That's the title and also the tagline. So everything followed by this next step, because as a data scientist, I find myself, which is the most interesting part for myself, the part that when I have the more fun, is really this data preparation part, when I can really discover the little twist inside the data and create the right variable. It's just very playful procedure. And but this playful procedure was, at that time at least, not playful at all, because you had to write SQL commands, and SQL commands are very powerful, but when you have a SQL command that is 3 screen high, so that fills 3 screens of your computer screen, then it's not fun anymore. So you need to reintroduce fun and creativity inside the procedure. Daniel?
Yep. Básicamente la parte divertida de trabajar con la data no está realmente en escribir código. Y en la época, cuando uno tenía que trabajar, tenía que hacer todo en SQL, y hacer mantenimiento y entendimiento de un script SQL de 3 páginas no tiene nada que ver con la definición de algo divertido. Lo que es divertido es inventar conceptos, inventar variables, crear features. Y ahí es donde realmente había que cambiar algo, porque toda la parte de preparación de datos no era nada divertido, era programación pesada, de operaciones aún más pesadas cuando tenían que correr.
Okay, so we needed something new, something that would allow any data scientist to be creative and to have fun. So something new again. I like that. So obviously, what I'll talk about in a few seconds is Anatella. But now I want to make a little parenthesis about a law that is that maybe some of you know this law. It's the Moore's law, and the Moore's law basically it states that every 2 years the power of the computing the computing power, sorry, of the computers, it just doubles. And if you go back to what happened in the year 2000, so it's here on this X position at the year 2000, we had some CPUs inside computers that were quite fast. You can see here the clock frequency in megahertz was around 1 gigahertz. And you can see in the graphic here that this clock speed was increasing very steadily over the last 20 years or so, meaning that the Moore's law was applicable. Every 2 years, the power of the computing power doubles. So in the year 2000, everything looked great and without any limits, and we had the feeling that the Moore's law will continue to be applicable for the next decade or so. And actually, if you look at this chart here on the left, you will see that the Moore's law got something broken in the year 2005. There is a stagnation here. It doesn't increase anymore. You see these little black dots, they don't increase anymore, meaning that if you look at the current generation of CPUs, there will be something here flat around the same position as in 2005. And indeed, the best CPU nowadays have a CPU frequency around 5 gigahertz. And if Moore's law were still applicable, we would have CPUs in the order of, I would say, something like 200 gigahertz, but we are at 5, so it's basically, so the expectation is around 1,000 gigahertz, and what we are currently with is something CPUs that are stuck at 5 gigahertz. So very disappointing. The CPU stops. The speed of the CPU stops increasing. And but for a brief amount of time, and especially in the year 2000, the general consensus of the world industry was that we will have infinite computing power after a while. We just need to wait a little, and after a while, the computing power would have increased so much that any kind of code, even the worst code, the code that is extremely slow, would still be acceptable in terms of speed. And this expectation that the Moore's law continues to be applicable give birth to a series of different languages. And the most well-known of these languages is Java. So Java was the birth of Java is exactly in 1999, so just a little bit before the year 2000. And at that time, the general consensus was that we don't care about speed of the code. Anyway, if we look 2 years, if we wait 2 years, the computer will be so much faster, 2 times faster, that any kind of code, bad, slow, or good, fast, it won't matter, because in 2 years, all the code, all the speed of all the speed of the code, every code will have a speed acceptable. Every program will be with an acceptable speed. And it's actually, as you can see in the previous slide, the Moore's law was broken in the year 2005, meaning that these expectations were not met, meaning that if you want to have a fast code, nowadays, everybody knows that it's useless to wait 2 years. If you wait 2 years, you will have a CPU which is only marginally faster, but not double the speed of what we have now. So we need to find another way to make our code run faster, another way to make our program run faster. And it's more important than ever, because as you can see here in the little chart on the right, the data volumetry continues to increase exponentially. So it has an exponential growing scale. So we have more and more data, huge volumetry on data on one side, on the left side, on the right side, and on the left side we have something that's just stagnate and stay the same. The power of CPU stays the same. So it's just a very big problem. It's really terrible. And obviously the solution is to rely on other techniques to get speed. And this is what we did at TIMi. And we are apparently one of the very few companies that did choose to follow this very difficult road. Instead of waiting 2 years, or instead of adding more CPUs, we decided that in order to increase the speed of the software, we needed to really work on the code, produce very efficient code, some part of the code written in assembly, using a lot of mathematical tricks everywhere in the code, and basically what is called the 70s solution. Because if you look at the informatics from the 70s, this is what the good software engineers were doing at that time. They were using assembly code, mathematical tricks to increase the speed of their software, because they didn't have access to the cloud. So we decided to follow this road, and it paid out. Actually, it paid out, because we have now with Anatella one of the biggest and fastest data solution in the world, most certainly the fastest. So Anatella, we started working in Anatella in 2010, and then there were other competitors that tried to imitate us again, try to reach the speed, the processing speed that we have with Anatella, but without much success, especially Spark. Here, the company behind Spark, Databricks, I think, just announced that it was dropping support for Spark and rebuilding something completely different, because they are still trying to match our speed, but without any success. Maybe I'll go back here, Daniel.
Danny, you are in mute, but actually maybe we can continue, and we can have the translation at the end, how to resume. Okay?
Okay. So now we have this really nice solution, AutoML modeler, and Anatella to do everything data management. The next step was obviously to think big. Dream big, because when you have such a solution that is able to handle any data volumetry using one server or even sometimes one laptop. A laptop is most of the time it's enough if your volumetry is not too big. A small telecom, for example, with less than 10 million subscribers, you can easily manipulate that with a laptop. And so the next step was to dream really big and to use this solution everywhere where there is a large volumetry. And this is where the Latin America is really interesting, because you have in America, there is this particularity that you have this really large population, and also because of the COVID crisis, you are very sensitive to the fact that we were discussing that a few minutes earlier, that data science must create value. So it should not be a cost. It should really deliver results. And what could be better than TIMi to analyze huge volume of data and deliver results? I don't think there is much competition there. So we just decided, and Daniel was there at the very beginning, followed by Dora, and followed with plenty of really great partners there that helped us develop the activities in Latin America. I am thinking about the AUEX, the Pacific Chamber of Commerce. In Peru, there was DMC, great guys. I love them. And in Colombia, GP Strategy. This is really a very active ecosystem. I know that Daniel co-organized with all these guys a lot of events, and it's really a pleasure to see everything that is going on there. Really cool ecosystem. So obviously, Latin America was not the only one to join the party, because when you have such a solution that allows you to be creative, to have fun, a lot of people join the party and they have fun analyzing their data. And just a little reminder that, as always, the main objective of the company is to push the boundaries of what we can do with a computer. So to boldly go where no data miner has gone before. And yeah, a lot of people enjoyed TIMi, as demonstrated by our very good position in the G2 data science grid, because it's, as you can see here on the x-axis, this x-axis represents the satisfaction level, and we are here at the very right extremity of this axis, so very high satisfaction. Lots of people are very happy with what they receive when you are using TIMi. And why shouldn't they be? It's just a great tool, and I enjoy a lot building it for you guys. So, and Daniel, that is busy doing all the R boxes and some of the Python boxes, is also enjoying a lot the interactions that he gets with all of you. And that's it. That's the last slide. I hope that you enjoyed the ride, and I was more or less understandable, because sometimes I'm speaking too fast.
Okay. To the end, from what do you see to the future? How can you? What kind of things you can say to our data scientists here about what is for the next? We have a lot of challenge right now. How do you see the future of that?
So it's true that with the corona there is a lot of challenges. the budgets are shrinking everywhere. Unfortunately, at the same time, analytics is becoming critical to the survival of many companies because it's basically the only way to engage with customer. But at the same time, the budgets are shrinking, so it's not always very easy to reconcile these two different aspects. So about the future, I see it bright, nevertheless, because it's a general consensus worldwide then that analytics is just very important for everybody. Most companies realize that now, and they really engage in analytical activities, creating models, creating customer view. So it's just a good. It's going in the good direction. The thing that I am concerned the most is the way companies deploy analytics, because basically you have two different ways when you deploy analytics. You can either go to a full open source code, or you can also go to full closed source code, and both of these approach are nice. If you are going open source, it's really nice because you don't have a licenses fee or very small licenses fee. But at the same time, it's really becoming a nightmare for maintenance, because you are forced to write thousands of lines of R or Python codes, and then who will do the maintenance of these code? And what I notice very often is that you have one data scientist, a very good one. He develops many modules in R or Python, and then leaves the company to go somewhere else, because these guys are in very high demands, good data scientists, and for good reasons. And then he leaves the company, and then there is another guy that comes in, and then he has these millions of lines of code that he has to maintain, and you can pretty much guess that the fun is lost there. It's not fun anymore. So, and I pretty think, I'm pretty much convinced that analytics should remain a fun activity, because if you don't have fun, you are not willing to engage in doing creative experiences with your data. And it's when you are playing really, and the word play is important, is when you are really playing with the data that you are discovering interesting stuff. And if you remove this playful thing, then you don't have fun anymore. Then it's a real catastrophe, because you will not deliver good results. So I really love open source code myself, but there are some drawbacks. And then the other way around is that you can choose to pay for some small fee for closed source licenses, and then you get a more packaged solution. And usually this is highly performant code, not open source code, which is somewhat not as optimized. And then you get something more fun to use. Obviously, the correct answer is somewhere in the middle, as always. And this is what we try to achieve with TIMi. Basically, we want to get the best of both worlds, you know. We want to have this openness and coolness of open source. At the same time, we want a system that is without these thousands of lines, of millions of lines of incomprehensible code that really kills the fun. So this is why we are using and proposing open source inside TIMi, but with a unique twist. And I think that we are practically the only one to do that. We're just there might exist a solution that does that, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't know that, because what you are doing when you are using open source code inside TIMi, you are doing it, but with what we call an abstraction layer. And what this abstraction layer does is just a way to allow you to create very complex solution using open source code, but without seeing one line of code. And even better, without seeing one line of code, and in addition to that, you push to us all the mundane tasks and horrible tasks to maintain these boxes. And Daniel will just cry about that because he is doing the maintenance of all these open source R and Python box, and he's suffering like hell so that you guys doesn't suffer. So you can have a big thanks to Daniel and his team because he's not alone. And we thank I thank them a lot because, and you should also know that all these team, when they develop new boxes in R and Python, they don't take any kind of random direction. It's all guided by what you are asking. So the Latin American market for us is a really important market because it allows us to really find very easily, because we have such a good connection with our customer, what the customer desire, what are the most important boxes that they want. So it just ultimately it's just a very good relationship that we have with the overall Latin American market, and it's a great opportunity for us because we have this possibility to create really nice boxes, and for the Latin American market because obviously they get access to the best tool in the world. Yes.
Excellent, Frank. Yeah, actually, that's something in our culture. We are really flexible, and we every time are talking with our clients to try to try to put in the part of the creation, part of what we are doing in the global way. Excellent. Daniel, no sé, I don't know if you want to make a little resume in Spanish.
Very quick, un resumen muy rápido, básicamente de lo que nos contó es que todo lo que quería hacer después fue de hacer todo más rápido. Y es muy interesante que empezó a trabajar en Atela en el 2010 y me acuerdo de hecho que la primera versión que usé antes de trabajar con TIMi, yo era cliente realmente de TIMi trabajando en consultoría y había mucho Java en la herramienta. En la primera versión, la versión 0.12, que es la que yo usaba. En la versión 0.2, el Java había desaparecido. Y digo, ¿pero qué pasó? Y digo, no, es que el Java me estaba matando todo. Decidí volver a hacer todo en código de bajo nivel. Y la idea que tuvo es que, mira, tenemos que trabajar en código de bajo nivel si queremos ser eficientes. Porque si no, la última alternativa va a ir de intentar de multiplicar la cantidad de procesadores, porque la ley de Moore cayó en el 2005 más o menos, y la velocidad de los procesadores ya dejó de aumentar como hubiera tenido que aumentar. En el 2005 teníamos procesador de 1.5, 2 GHz, hoy estamos a 5, deberían estar a 1000. Entonces deberíamos tener procesadores que van 200 veces más veloces de los que hay hoy, pero desafortunadamente con la idea de que todo se iba a solucionar con mejores procesadores, hay un montón de código de muy mala calidad desarrollado con lenguaje de muy baja velocidad, como Java, como Python, que no son lenguajes rápidos. Tienen sus ventajas, tienen su flexibilidad, pero cuando uno quiere realmente procesar gran volumen de información, no tiene otra opción que volver a pensar todo en lenguaje de bajo nivel, como C, C++ y Assembler. Y eso fue realmente lo que hizo con Atela. Empezó a desarrollar, empezó a facilitar todo, y hay una tendencia que es toda la parte del código abierto, de R, de Python, que es lo que queremos hacer. Pero el trabajo de un científico de datos es de jugar con la data. No es de mantener miles y miles de líneas de código para hacer transformaciones. Y cuando un data scientist llega y lo primero que tiene que hacer es le dicen, mira, el anterior nos desarrolló esas 340.000 líneas de código en Python, tu trabajo es el mantenimiento, no se va a quedar, porque es el trabajo más aburrido que existe en el mundo. Un científico de datos es una persona inteligente, imaginativa, creativa, y esa creatividad solo se puede despegar cuando tiene una eficiencia analítica para poder hacerlo. Y la parte open source obviamente no la rechazamos, está integrada en la forma de trabajar con TIMi, pero en Atela En Anatela, R y Python tienen un nivel de abstracción adicional que uno ni se da cuenta que está procesando R porque está completamente integrado, y lo que hacemos es desarrollar nodos que van a ser parte de la herramienta. Y el sufrimiento de este mantenimiento básicamente lo tenemos el equipo acá. Y tienen que saber que cada vez que están trabajando con open source, ustedes no lloran, yo sí.
Ok, muchas gracias, Daniel. Excellent. Thank you very much, Frank. To the last and to see something about the future, how do you see, or not is exactly how do you see it, what do you think about the cloud environment?
That's a big question. Okay, when we prepared this video, I did say to Daniel Dora a few things, and they were not happy. So I try to give my honest answer, but it will be very difficult for me to not say bad things about the cloud. Actually. Everything is not bad about the cloud, because without the cloud, we would not have Google, we would not have Gmail, we would have had Facebook, we would not have WhatsApp and all this cool stuff. So I kind of like the cloud, and it's and also what I like with the cloud is that it's a very good place to store your data. So you can put cold data inside the cloud, and it's very good for cold storage. And also it's kind of nice to if you need to run some highly distributed application, so an application that can run on many different PCs, then obviously because of the cloud you have many different PCs, and it's just very interesting to have access to all these PC if your application is able to distribute the computation on a large number of PCs, which is unfortunately not the case usually when you engage in data science activities. Because the type of computation performed for analytical activities, 99% of the time, they cannot be distributed. So it's actually better for data science to have a limited number of machines, but very good machine. And we even prepared a small video about this subject that we will publish soon on our YouTube YouTube channel. But already a small spoiler here: the best machine is not available in the Amazon or Azure cloud. It's available in a European cloud provider named Hetzner. It's a German company, and it's kind of a good surprise for us, a European citizen, for me as a European citizen, because as a European citizen, I really like that confidential data from the European citizen stays inside the clouds that are located in Europe. And finally, I would say, so there are very good things about the cloud, and we are using at TIMi a lot of cloud machine, but the most important thing I think about the cloud is a question of trust and ethics. So trust and ethics, it's just not immediate explanation. So you see, when you go to the cloud, some some technological choice have no importance. They have very little importance. For example, you can choose Gmail or Office 365 as your email box, and you can switch between the two without too much trouble. There is no lock-in possible, and the key word here is lock-in, because when you engage in data science activities, you are most of the time developing for a very specific platform. It's very common to see data scientists developing solutions that will only work on Amazon, only work on SaaS, only work on, I don't know, a very specific stuff, SQL Server or Azure, and nowhere else. What does it mean? It means that you have these thousands of lines of code that only works in this environment, and this means that there is a lock-in situation that just appears. And strangely, this lock-in situation, nobody talks about it. It's like a big elephant in the room, and nobody talks about it. You can go everywhere in every channel on YouTube or conferences. Nobody talks about this lock-in situation, and this lock-in situation is so strong and it's so much exploited by unethical people that it's so recurrent and so common in data science that that when we created TIMi, it was really one of the fundamental reasons that led us to the creation of the solution. Actually, if you go to our website, we have a page in here. Maybe you can share this screenshot. We have this page that really talks about the ethics of TIMi and why, despite the numerous other providers in data management, we will not engage in this unethical behavior. It's a very interesting read. I invite you to read the page. And so to summarize, I would say that the cloud is nice, but it has some advantages and disadvantages. And if you are willing to go to the cloud, and everybody goes to the cloud now, my advice would be to select very carefully an ethical cloud provider. Because if you select somebody that has a poor ethic, after a while, because of this locking situation, this provider will be able to charge you any price. It will just send you obscene invoice, a little bit like Amazon is doing currently. You see this price grid that Amazon is creating. They are really obscure price grid. If you try to understand the pricing structure of Amazon, it's just incomprehensible. And despite having billions of euros to build these price grids, they are not able to create something that you can understand. And it tells you a lot about the ethical aspect of this company, because basically what they do is they build this incomprehensible price grid, and then they are able to send to you in whole impunity an obscene invoice that you cannot contest. So it just, the cloud is nice, but choose ethical cloud provider is even better. And I would even say, if you want to totally avoid, completely avoid this lock-in situation to a cloud provider, you should use a cloud neutral solution. There are a few of these solutions now on the market. TIMi is one of them. It's really cloud neutral. You can use TIMi as well. You can use TIMi on Amazon, Azure, Hetzner, OVH, wherever you want. We prefer to use it on computer from OVH and Hetzner because they have much better CPUs than the other cloud providers. And furthermore, they have much better ethics too. So it's just a no-brainer for us to go to OVH or Hetzner. So this was my little take on the cloud, and I hope I didn't shocked you too much.
Okay, excellent, Fran. Yeah, it's an interesting point of view. To the end, we have some between 5 minutes. We will going to be able to answer your questions. So, Danny, I don't know if you want to make a little resume, and I will going to read you the questions, okay? So,
ok. Bueno, la posición de la nube es que la nube es muy útil para muchas cosas, en particular para la parte de almacenamiento en frío. Para guardar sus datos uno sabe que cuando está en la nube está segura y es muy poco probable que haya pérdida de información. Todos los proveedores tienen esa promesa de casi cero falla. La nube también puede ser útil para algunas cosas distribuidas, pero en muchas aplicaciones analíticas la distribución no funciona. Y ahí es donde es importante darse cuenta que no importa la cantidad de servidores que va a tener, lo que es importante es tener un servidor muy bueno y muy potente que va a ser capaz de procesar casi toda la información y sobre todo controlar los costos variables que están asociados con el cálculo de la nube. Si van a mover la nube, lo que todo el mundo está haciendo hoy en día, porque sin la nube no tendríamos nada, no estaríamos hablando hoy en día por esa aplicación si no tuviéramos nube. No podríamos tener Google, no tendríamos nada de información disponible de forma instantánea a nivel global. La nube es buena para un montón de cosas. Pero en el término puro de analítica, las soluciones que están disponibles en la nube generan costos escondidos y malas sorpresas. Una de las malas sorpresas es una posición de lock-in en cual nos pueden poner, porque cuando uno desarrolla una solución completa en Amazon, pasarla a otro proveedor es básicamente imposible. Y eso es algo que tiene que ver con la ética que tiene un proveedor. Y si uno va a escoger algo, tiene que escoger un proveedor de nube que sea lo más ético posible y lo más respetuoso de cumplir su promesa y no cambiar las reglas del juego en el camino. Y bueno, como empresa en TIMi siempre hemos insistido mucho en la parte ética y creo que son valores que se comparten con absolutamente todos los miembros de TIMi, todos los empleados de TIMi tenemos este compromiso total con la ética. Y cuando uno está en la nube, básicamente tiene que buscar una forma de tener algo que le permita no estar completamente dependiente de una solución en particular, y ahí es donde TIMi también puede apoyar, porque uno desarrolla sus procesos en Anatela y se pasan de un sistema al otro sin demasiado problema.
Ok. Muchas gracias por el resumen, Daniel. Thank you very much for your participation, Frank. Okay, we need to stop here. We only have 1 hour for the webinar, and we need to respect that. So thank you very much for both. Yeah, we will going to answer your questions. If you want to put it in LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, we will going to be answering your questions this week. So I know that Daniel and Frank, we will going to answer to you. No problem for that. And again, thank you very much for both. Muchísimas gracias a todos por acompañarnos el día de hoy. Nuevamente, muy agradecidos con su participación. Estaremos contándoles en las siguientes semanas sobre nuestro siguiente webinar, que esperamos sea de su agrado. Gracias a todos y feliz día para todos.
Muchas gracias, Dora. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Frank. Muchas gracias a todos por su atención. Ha sido un gran placer para nosotros compartir este espacio.
Muchas gracias. See you.